Metalheads, and welcome to Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I'm Corey.
And I'm Matt. And each week, this podcast will serve as a catalyst for discussion on all sorts of topics that grind our gears, excite us, or just need an extra bit of conversation.
In this week's episode, we're talking about car posters. What happened? Where'd they go? Are we too old? Do they still exist? What's the deal? And can cars be art? Just like each week, we want to invite you to join with us in this discussion about all things automotive on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GT Garage Talk. You can email us at gtgaragetalk@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, gtgaragetalk.com, and fill out a form, shoot us an email just like any other old-fashioned way. But we want to hear back from you. This is a discussion between us all. But this week, the discussion is around car posters. So this actually came up in our first episode, Matt.
Yeah.
We were talking about our car histories in that episode, and I had mentioned when I was a youth, before I could drive cars, my parents lamented at the sheer number of posters and pictures on my wall. And I don't blame them, looking back with my mind's eye now, of just truly how many staple holes I put in my wall, putting up car posters and printed car pictures. No telling how much we spent in ink on our printer. And I didn't discriminate. I printed out all kinds of things. I had a Camaro section because Camaro's my all-time favorite car.
Right.
I printed up a pretty generic picture of 1998, I believe, is when they changed the body style on it. Chevy Tahoe, just like sitting on the rocks in the water, like it was one of their promotional pictures for it. But I didn't discriminate. Like it wasn't just a overly beautiful vehicle, but
hey,
it was a car and it was on my wall.
That's
by
right.
golly.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and my first car poster, and I think it may have been one of only two or three really that I had on my walls, was of the Plymouth Prowler.
I had two car posters of Plymouth Prowlers, so yes.
And I loved it. I mean, it was cutting edge for the late 90s. It was different than anything else around. It was
all right. So
it was beautiful.
I'm gonna Google this right now just to get all the history on the Plymouth Prowler.
Oh yes, please do.
All y'all that don't know, on the other end.
And I think I may have mentioned in that first episode that when I get to the point of being able to afford and start a car collection, that will be my first car, my first collected car, and it has to be purple.
Yes.
And I have to have the trailer with it.
All right, so we're going to get into all of that, but first let's educate our listeners just a little bit, since we are audio only. I'll put some links in the description to the Wikipedia page that I'm about to read to you on the Plymouth Prowler. So the heading: the Plymouth Prowler, later the Chrysler Prowler, that's really hard to say, is a retro-styled production car manufactured and marketed from 1997 to 2002, so it didn't really live that long, by Daimler Chrysler, based on the 1993 concept car of the same name. So I'm pretty sure the poster you had on the wall, and the first of my two Plymouth Prowler posters, was actually of that purple concept car. Because they made some changes before it rolled out to the public, including the headlights, which I think only made it look better. Normally, production cars look worse than the concept, but in this case, I think they fixed it up to look better. And the final note, the Prowler was offered in a single generation in a front-engine, rear-drive, rear transmission configuration with an overall production of only 11,702 units produced. So you've got your work cut out for you when it comes to
I do.
To finding one worth drooling over.
Well, and the few that are out and about for sale, I think there's a couple in Dallas last time I looked. Auto Trader seems to be the place to go to find most of them, because it's or at least nationwide, if not globally. Right. And you can specify, okay, I want the purple one, not the yellow one. I think they only made them in four 4 or 5 colors.
Yeah, the picture that comes up first on Wikipedia is either like a really orangey red.
Yeah.
It could just be the light. I don't know, but it looks pretty good in red. But
yeah,
I would
it's
have
not
yellow,
bad in red.
yellow or purple.
Yellow or purple.
Because those were the two colors of the
Right.
posters that I had on my wall growing up.
Exactly.
I had the purple concept vehicle and then the yellow production vehicle.
So just to geek out just for a minute. So, and I noticed this as you were reading through rear transmission, right? Which at the time was pretty exclusive to
the Corvette.
The Corvette.
Yeah.
So some thoughtful technology going into it there.
Right.
Front engine, but the overall design, this big teardrop wedge shape thing, limited them very much on how much engine they could put under the hood.
All right, so to go further into the maybe unengaged, or if you don't want to click through our show notes and go to the Wikipedia page or Google it, this car looked awesome. It looked like something out of the 30s. But yes, it was wedged shaped. It had open fenders, and the wheels were a good foot away from the rest of the body on the front of the car. It looked awesome. It kind of was part of the design inspiration of the PT Cruiser. I think it translates a whole lot better.
That's
Again,
unfortunate.
We talked a few weeks back about crossovers and how designs translate to crossovers with like Aston Martin and Lamborghini and stuff like that. So here's a sports car that was adapted to an early crossover that maybe didn't go over quite as well, but it definitely looked good. It was a convertible. Had a big back end. I like. I'm gonna
easy.
There's a certain song from the '90s that truly describes how I feel about car designs. The song in question was not talking about cars, but
no,
that's what I relate it back to.
Oh yeah.
So, the Prowler had an ample backside. We'll put it that way. Unfortunately, you referenced the Prowler having a trailer. The reason it needed a trailer is because its ample backside was for looks
and for the transmission.
For the transmission and for the convertible top. Many automotive journalists of the era said that you could put a T-shirt back there. That was about it. So it was necessary for a trailer. And why don't you describe the trailer?
So the trailer basically would be if you took and cut the car right down through the middle of the door and used the back half of the car.
In fact,
that was the trailer.
There's a picture of one with the trailer on Wikipedia.
Matching wheels to the car. You could get it color matched to the car. I mean, it's a sharp looking little trailer.
I do love that car.
It's just an awesome. Now, okay, so those are the good things about the car, right?
Right.
Some of the negatives, no trunk at all.
Wow.
It's more of an access panel.
When it comes to and it opened backwards because it was really opening for the roof of the car, not to be a trunk. But when you're talking dream cars, like practicality, throw that out the window. Like dream cars don't need to be practical; they need to look good and go fast.
Okay.
And unfortunately, go fast was one of the areas where the Prowler fell short.
It did very much.
Chrysler fell on some hard times during this time, and while they had grand ambitions with the Prowler, basically it was the Grand Caravan, the Plymouth Voyager minivan engine that went in under that wedge of a hood.
Yeah. Not much over 200 horsepower and just...
So you referenced in a previous episode you want Hennessy to fix up a expedition for you and your wife.
Yeah.
That's much later down the road, but car companies like Hennessy, I'm pretty sure Hennessy's got a Prowler conversion. There are many aftermarket companies that will fix up Prowlers, and they've crammed V8s under that oddly shaped hood.
Well, I mean, the technology of these days would lend itself to many different options for that platform, I think.
Plus, if you could find a nice small block like a 302 or something like that.
Easy. Easy.
Now, another problem of the Prowler is because of those exposed front wheels and fenders and all that, and the interesting proportions of the car, turning wasn't exactly one of its strong suits either. So
which is funny because there's nothing in the way of the wheels for it to turn.
Right, but it really was more of a cruiser vehicle.
Yes.
It meant its primary focus was to look good.
Yeah.
To exist and look good doing it.
Oh yeah.
And that it did quite well.
Oh yeah.
And so that kind of leads into like, can cars be art? I would say that the Prowler is more art than it is sports car.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it looked better than it drove.
Yeah, definitely. And same could be said for many cars of that era.
Right.
The Chrysler Crossfire.
Yeah.
Beautiful car. Kind of again on the cutting edge of what technology was taking the auto industry towards.
That one had an ample backside too.
It also had an ample backside, but stuck with the V6 and just wasn't much more than something that looked pretty.
Right. And I'd say on the Crossfire, kind of the opposite of the Prowler, the concept looked better than what we got in reality.
Yeah.
The face got beat with an ugly stick a little, but looks are subjective. So you might love the Crossfire. I worked with some people in my 9-to-5 job that had a Crossfire and loved it, except for all the mechanical issues that they had with it. So
and the cost of tires.
Right.
Well, I know someone also who had one for a little while, and it was a third vehicle for them. So she would drive it back and forth to work a little bit, and then she punctured a tire one day and decided it needed to spend some time in the garage. Right. She drove the Honda to work. So.
Right. And the Prowler specifically had mismatched sized tires. Like the front wheels and tires were smaller than the rear, which is becoming more and more of a trend. Like the Corvette has 19s in the front and 20s in the rear, if I'm not mistaken.
On the C8.
Yep. And I believe even the C7 had staggered wheel sizes like that as well. So it causes problems. But again, dream cars don't need to be practical, right?
Or do they? I mean, I would potentially argue that I mean, because and maybe this is a moot point, because dream cars are the ones where there's no reservations, right? No money issues or anything of that sort. Not having to worry about carrying everybody. Both of us have a family, so the Prowler's a 2-seater, so there's really not an option to carry your family with you. Maybe you mount a rumble seat in the trunk. Or in the trailer, and let you get right in the trailer.
That would be terrifying.
Just kidding.
Seems like something we could do in the future. that would make for some very interesting content.
Yes, it would. Most definitely would.
Closed course, of course.
Yes, but I think that kind of that sweet spot for dream cars would be where practicality meets.
Right.
The dream itself. We talked about in the last episode the SUVs that have these monstrous V8s under the hood, right?
Yeah.
So it's you and your family driving 200 miles an hour in a Trackhawk.
But are you ever going to put a poster of a Trackhawk on the wall?
I would.
Because,
I would put a poster of a Raptor on the wall, and they're very practical. Right. And they're very expensive. So, again, that leads credence to the dream aspect of it.
So, to your point, I'm surprised you haven't hammered me on this, so I'll volunteer the information. So, I've mentioned many a time, Camaro is the Camaro in general is the car that got me to love vehicles.
Yeah.
And so, it has always been my dream car. I always wanted the top of the line, the best of the best Camaro that I could get. And when I turned 25, I bought a 2012 45th anniversary edition SS with 6.2 liter engine, a 6-speed manual transmission. I had my dream car.
Yeah.
It could have gotten better. I could have gotten a Z01, but oh my gosh. But I loved, her name was Cameron. I loved Cameron.
Yeah.
She was my dream car. The problem was that intersection of dream versus reality. At the time, I was living in an apartment with my brother. We were splitting rent. and he was fixing to, good East Texas phrase, he was fixing to get married, and so we knew we were splitting, going opposite directions, and I knew how much I paid for that, and I was looking for my first solo apartment. Keynote, I actually paid more on that car note than I did in rent for my first solo apartment. So many different reasons why I only kept her for a year. I would love to still have that car.
Sure.
Again, makes no practical sense with the family that I have right now. Or the driveway. I don't think I could actually get it up my 15-degree incline of a driveway. So she would have to park on the street, and I don't know if I could do that to her.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yes, I had my dream car at a point in time where the intersection of dream and practicality didn't quite line up. I referenced in episode 1 or 2 how expensive the rear tires were for that car.
Yep.
And again, the impracticality versus the dream. They were very, very expensive. The 2 rear tires cost more than the 4 tires on my current Chevy Cruze. So it was not a practical everyday vehicle. That being said, I have taken road trips to San Antonio, to Houston, and to Dallas with people riding in the back seat.
Really?
Tall people too, 5'10" to 6'2", riding in the back seat of that car.
Really?
So Colton Cooper, I apologize for crimming you back there, but if I'm not mistaken, y'all volunteered for it. So
there you go.
I'm not that sorry. But yeah, so man, I would love to have that car back.
Yeah.
It very much a dream car, but by no means practical. So I can see why sports cars are a midlife crisis type car, because by that point your kids are grown up and out of the house. You're not having to worry about backseat practicality, or in the case of the Prowler, no backseat.
Yeah.
But it would definitely have to be a third vehicle for me at this point in my life.
Right. All right, so here's a question for you.
Okay.
And you may have partially answered this already, but when it comes to your dream car, do you build it or do you buy it?
So this is probably where you and I differ the most.
Yeah.
I would buy it. So like money, no option. There are so many cars that I would love to have. Most of them from Italy. Ferraris, like if somebody offered me a Ferrari, absolutely I would take it. If somebody offered me even a car I didn't like, I would take it at this point. I'd turn around and sell it.
Well,
but like if they said, here's a car, you have to keep it for a year. Yes. Like there are many cars on my dream car list. There are many cars that I would have a poster of on my wall for the sheer beauty of them. Going back to the Can Cars Be Art?
Yeah.
I would say there are Italians probably do it the best. Just the sheer beauty of their vehicles. Unless you're talking the Lamborghini Urus SUV. Beautiful that is not. It's very angular. It's cool looking, but I wouldn't call it beautiful.
Yeah.
But counterpoint on that, money no issue on upkeep, on purchase, on working on it.
Right.
All that aside, the car I would most like to own would take some building, because all-time favorite Camaro is a 1969 Chevy Camaro Z28.
Nice.
And it actually leads me into a question to you that we can get into after we kind of exhaust this topic. But yeah, that is my all-time favorite car. To find one in immaculate condition now would cost a pretty penny.
Oh, yeah.
It would also be fun to fix one up, but I also know my current skill level and my current situation. I don't have a garage that it could be worked on in. I don't have the facilities. I don't have a paint booth, but it's something I could, take it. Like you fixed up your very first car that was yours, Tallulah.
Yeah.
The Super Beetle was something. It started off blue and ended up orange. So I understand not all of it has to be done in-house,
Sure.
but a 69 Camaro Z28, whether a project car or bought brand new, like that's gold for me.
Nice.
That would be the pinnacle.
Nice.
So what about you?
Mine. I have several cars that I would love to build. Probably fewer cars that I would just outright buy.
Right.
And I don't have the blessing of being able to say that I've owned my dream car just yet. But I think, man, and it's such a hard question for me because I love cars in general, just any and all of them.
It's tough when you've always got the itch and you're always drooling over something.
Always. I mean, like everything from, and if you don't know what this vehicle is, Google it because it's an incredible vehicle. That was. I can't even remember who builds them now, but it's an aftermarket builder who back in the 80s took a Ford Bronco and stretched it and called it the Centurion and made a 4-door 6 or 7 passenger Bronco out of it. And I'd love to have one of those, drop it on a 3/4 ton chassis and a 4BT or a 6BT Cummins under the hood.
Oh my gosh, you're making a Frankenstein of a vehicle.
I mean, just, 6-speed manual transmission.
So you truly mean just build it like...
Yeah, like bits from this rig and bits from that rig and, engine from this one and that one and whatever and assemble something. So anything or something either from that direction, more of a family hauler type vehicle, all the way almost completely the other direction to a 71 Volkswagen Super Beetle.
Yeah.
So I guess in a way I could say that I have owned my dream vehicle, but the one that I would build with money not being an option would probably have a turboed Porsche engine under the hood, and wide tires all the way around, a whale tail, and it sits low and more of an autocross styled Beetle. I've drawn up and dreamed about building the ultimate Beetle for many years, probably since before I bought my first car. So
one thing where our listeners could get involved in this is I've seen some other channels I follow on social media do a bracket challenge.
Okay.
So what if we started a bracket challenge for dream cars? In order to do this, we need a pool of contenders, if you will.
Yeah.
So our listeners could chime in through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email, our website, what their dream cars are. And I make that plural because you and I have both alluded to it would be hard to narrow it down to just one.
Sure.
I know what the pinnacle is for me, but I would also absolutely love to have more than that.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's why God has not blessed me with a lot of money. I blow it on vehicles instead of glorifying Him. But that is something that it would be really fun to do. So we need our listeners' help. We need your help. So give us your dream cars, whether it be something classic, something new, something crazy. And we'll put together a little bracket challenge and see where that goes.
Maybe to add to that a little bit, maybe we could have a built side and a bought side.
Yep. And see who wins.
And see who comes out on top. I mean, obviously, we're not going to be able to go into full detail about each individual built vehicle, but a general premise of, drivetrain, year, make, and model of the built vehicle, and then the bought vehicles, comparable, but there's going to be differences. I think that'd be a blast.
So the question that I alluded to earlier that I want to get from you is, it's something that I've been pondering on for a very long time. What shows more, I wrote down style and class, but maybe more understanding and appreciation of the automotive world more. And is that, so in my instance, I'll do self-reflective here with my love of Camaros. Which do you say speaks to more of an educated car person? Me going out and buying the newest, best Camaro ZL1 with a 1LE package on it, the giant wing on the back, the next to no ground clearance, and the supercharged engine.
Rock hard magnetic suspension.
Right. Or finding truly just mint condition 1969 or even 1967, the first year they made them, true classic Camaro. Because, well, I'll let you answer and then I'll give you my thoughts.
Okay.
Like, which do you think, and Camaro aside, like newest, best of the best, techie, everything that the automotive world has reached at this point, like the C8. The C8 is pinnacle Corvette at this moment.
Sure.
Or would you go back to something classic? Because I know you've got a love for.
So to clarify your question is, and we can go back and edit this if we need to, but to clarify your question, what makes you more a gearhead?
Yeah. What shows a better appreciation of the industry?
More appreciation for the industry. Okay. So I think it.
It's a tough one.
It is not an easy question to answer, and
not just
from a standpoint of not wanting to alienate people,
right.
but
because it's not a knock to whichever one you're against.
Right.
It's just your mindset.
Yeah. I think you can be a gearhead and not be mechanically inclined.
Absolutely. Hello.
Yeah. But I think in order to be truly a gearhead, someone who appreciates the automobile, there has to be a passion behind it.
Right.
So anybody can go to Fiat Chrysler, to Fomoco, to Chevy, whoever, and pick up a brochure for
the latest
a Hellcat Red Eye or a Ford GT or whatever, ZL1 1LE, and memorize the information on the brochure, right? 650 horsepower, 650 foot-pounds of torque, magnetic ride, adjustable suspension, active aero, yada, 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 yada. I can regurgitate information. That's fine. Tell me about the passion. Tell me about what that car does for you, what it is that attracted you to that car, what it is that keeps you in that car. So I think it's more about the passion than the vehicle itself that you choose.
So my answer would be very much along those lines. I would say that to truly appreciate even the newest, there has to be at least some recognition to the past and where we've come from. And so, like me, my favorite car is the Camaro. I truly adore that first generation. I hold it above all generations, past and present.
Yeah.
Like that is the pinnacle of it, because that is the essence of the Camaro. That's when pony car wars were just starting. That's plus they were gorgeous and beautiful and in one of our previous episodes, we talked about automotive trends that need to come back. A lot of them came from classic cars of that era. So, houndstooth inserts in the seats and things of that nature, I want back. So, I guess the question really came from, like, if someone just struck it rich and went out and bought the newest, latest, and greatest because they knew it cost the most. That doesn't exactly translate to they know what they're talking about. One of my favorite car movies is the newer Gone in 60 Seconds with Nicolas Cage, and they have this conversation more or less, and they talk about the passion and the history.
Yeah.
But it's when Nicolas Cage's character is he goes to the Ferrari dealership. They're scouting out certain cars to boost, and he's talking. Anybody could just go out and buy the newest one. Not anybody, but anybody with money could just go out and buy the newest one. But truly finding that passionate, that rare, that gem is what I'm after. And And that's why, like, the pinnacle dream car for me would be my 1969 Camaro Z28 because.
Yeah. Well, and from that film,
Right.
the car that the film was built around was
Eleanor,
that beautiful Mustang GT500. I mean, yeah, it's. I would completely agree. It has everything to do with the passion behind the purchase, not the purchase itself.
Which I blame that movie for a lot of my car. That's probably why I name all my vehicles, because they name all the vehicles that they boost in that movie, and Eleanor being like the name people think of in the automotive industry or anyone who has seen that movie.
Yeah,
Eleanor, the gray Mustang, so I blame that movie for a lot of my car.
Oh yeah.
Passions and desires, and kind of the way I approach the industry. They do a thing in that episode that we can do a whole episode on later if we've got enough content behind it. But I was sitting in a room with a bunch of my coworkers one day. There was a parking lot right outside, but all the windows were currently covered, so only lit by the fluorescent lights. And an engine starts up outside, and it's loud. And I instantly perk up, and I go, Ford Mustang. And everybody's like, what? And they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that's a Ford Mustang. How do you not know that's a Ford Mustang? And sure enough, I go peek out the window. It's bright red Ford Mustang GT. And there's a whole scene where they're listening to different car engines recordings on their boombox, and they're talking about what car that is, and they go through all the details of it. And so going back to that passion of being a gearhead, and by no means am I saying you have to know what every engine sounds like, because prior to that, like, just happenstance happening, like, I haven't given it much thought, but if I hear a 5.3 Chevy V8 start up, I'm like, what? That Suburban, Tahoe, Silverado. What was that?
The starter has a distinct sound. The exhaust gargle right at the beginning. I mean, all of that is.
The Ford F-150 V8 has a very distinct sound. And yours has an even more distinct sound.
Yes,
so
it does.
Yes, that.
Usually, you can tell the Fords though by the power steering whine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So. I can tell what engine's under the hood of certain friends' F-150s. That sounds a lot like Matt's. Yeah.
So I have another question for you. This kind of relates to the dream car and kind of the build it or buy it element. And that is, I forget what show I was watching, but Rutledge Wood was being interviewed.
Was it the American Top Gear?
It may have been, or some spinoff related to.
Good old Rut.
But the question was posed: you have $15,000. Do you buy 3 $5,000 cars,
or one
$3,000 cars, or one $15,000 car?
So I absolutely want to do an entire show on this. It's in our show notes. Our ever-growing list of show ideas is different price points.
Yeah.
What do you buy? This is kind of an interesting take on it. And you and I have had this discussion over the past 2, 3, 4 years since you've been back in Texas. And I'm always going for the single most expensive because that's just me. But
I'm the opposite spectrum. I would much rather have a different car for every day of the week than I would have one halfway dependable, mildly used vehicle. I mean,
it really would depend on what all I could find, because I've shared with our listening audience that my 2007 Chevy Silverado Sarah Joe started me down a very nasty habit of buying exclusively new vehicles, of which our 2014 Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk has begun to break me from.
Yeah.
And so we bought that thing used, and it was only 2 years old at the time. But the deal we found on it has got me itching and scratching. I'm looking for the next sweet find that was as good as that one. So It's an interesting question that I think changes daily what my answer is.
Oh, sure.
So, yeah. That is actually a really great segue into next week's episode.
It is.
So next week we're going to be talking about buying cars, Facebook Marketplace, Auto Trader, Craigslist, going to the dealership yourself in person, what you need to know, what we think about it. But in the meantime, our question of the week this week focused on dream cars. What is your dream car? Help us out with our bracket challenge. Give us any and all dream cars, any car that you've ever dreamt about, put a poster up on your wall. Do you even still have car posters? So Matt and I were joking when this show idea came up. It was scholastic book fairs in the schools is where I got all my car posters. My brother had Vipers on his wall. I had the Prowler. I had a Corvette. I don't know that they ever really made them in the scholastic book fairs for Camaros. It wasn't like peak pinnacle car poster material for wide audiences. But it was my dream car, and I would have bought a poster of it if I could.
Well, and when you and I were in grade school, it was on its way out, really. So,
yeah, they killed the Camaro in 2002, and they brought it back years later. As I mentioned before, I believe it was more a Camaro when it came back than when it left. So I was very appreciative that they did it right when it came back. So anyway, so that's our question of the day. Dream cars. What are yours? What have you dreamt about? Car posters. Have you put them up on your wall? Shoot us a message on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at GT Garage Talk. You can email us, gtgaragetalk@gmail.com, or you can visit our website. Right there on the homepage, we've got a form with the question of the week where you can shoot us back your information and what dream cars you've had over your past. We can't wait to hear from you. The discussion back on social media after these episodes is really fun. So we truly look to hear back from you. And until next time, bye.